I'm excited to welcome Jannie back to the show. And this is the first time in the studio. Last time I came to your location and we talked about Beyond.
Exactly.
And we'll, of course, link to that in case people want to get more.
Sure.
There's definitely
I'd love to.
A connection between Beyond and Murals.
There is that.
But I wanted to have you back in today because there's a birthday party coming up.
There's a big party coming up, Tom.
So we'll talk more about it as we get into the later episodes of August 20th, 1775, and our 250th anniversary as a city. But today specifically is about a mural project that is a part of the celebration.
It is. We have selected 4 marvelous, talented muralists, 2 men and 2 women, who have created their vision of what the 250th birthday means. Mm-hmm. And they had free rein to do that, and they have done a magnificent job.
And some of the murals are kind of out there, so people are getting a sense of them. But one thing I did want to point out, because this was confusing to me originally until I understood what was going on, mm-hmm. but it's a 250 plus celebration.
It's 250 plus. We have a very rich millennial history in mm-hmm. Tucson. It goes back thousands of years. The Hohokam, who we talk about today as if they were still here, they lived in Tucson from 400 to approximately 1400. So it's a very rich millennial history, and they farmed here and they lived here for a very long time.
Yeah,
and they're such an important part of our history.
Well, and the word Tucson itself comes from the Tohono O'odham with Tucson.
Exactly, Tucson.
Tucson, and has become. I find it interesting. All of the murals are representing that.
That's right. We did ask the muralists. We didn't want them. We wanted them to go their own way, but we did give them the guidance that we wanted 4 things in the mural in any way they wanted to put them, and they all used them very differently. And that was, number 1, to use the mayor's official 250 logo. Mm-hmm. And then to use the linguistic history of Tucson, which came from the Presidio Museum. And that is Estucson from the Tohono O'odham, and then from the Spaniards we have Tucson, and then today it's Tucson. Mm-hmm. So we asked for all 4 of those in each mural, and interestingly, Ignacio Garcia, in his mural, used Estucson, Tucson, Tucson, and then he found that there was a time when the Mexican people called it Tucson. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
That's how I pronounce it.
And then he added at the end how a 14-year-old today would write Tucson.
Yeah, every muralist I'm impressed with in their thought process that goes into this and their research. I think it gets lost in how beautiful their artwork is and how intense their research is in some cases to come up with these murals.
It is intense, and everyone who used real people in the murals consulted with the Tohono O'odham to make sure they were representing everything correctly. And they got great help and advice, and that was a really nice part of the way these murals evolved, that it's all about working with the people who know it and live it.
Well, I have an idea, and I hate to spring it on you like right now.
That's okay. I love ideas, Tom.
What you should do, because I love telling people what to do, is why don't you get the muralists together and have a big celebration?
What a good idea.
Maybe like a Friday in July in the evening.
You think people would come to a party in July?
I think they might if there was art and murals and history involved.
I bet you're right.
My guess is you might have thought about this already.
Actually, we have thought about this. And what we've decided to do is throw a big party on July 25. It's a Friday. And we will have this party at HighWire, which is just about 20 yards from Ignacio Garcia's mural. And at this party, we'll do some really great things, especially for July. Number one, we are going to take the Tucson Tough on a 1 mile mural tour because we can see all 4 of these murals in 1 mile. It's probably going to be 100 and some degrees. But if people are up for it, we'll have plenty of water for them. And we'll have guided tours they'll take maybe 30 minutes to see all 4 of the murals. And the guides will be able to tell them about the murals when they pass them. And then, thanks to you, Tom, we have the Tucson trolley, which will take everyone who doesn't feel tough enough to walk the tour, and your trolley will take them around and around and around. We'll fill up that trolley, hopefully many, many times.
Well, I don't want to think people aren't tough enough they have to ride the Tucson trolley tours, but I think they can be tough and ride on the Tucson trolley tours.
It's July 25th, Tom.
I know. I know. Well,
it's a different definition of tough.
I'm looking forward to just being a part of it and the celebration. Interesting, because this is a free event, but you have to RSVP, right?
Yes, we want to know how many are coming. We don't want to run out of food, and we don't want to run out of room. So we want to set things up so that people are comfortable, but we hope there's a huge crowd.
How do people RSVP?
We're sending out an invitation, but they can go through Downtown Tucson Partnership. If they get their emails, they will get a regular invitation there. They can get an invitation on the Beyond website and on the Rio Nuevo website, on the Presidio Museum website. So there are lots of ways to get an invitation. Or they can call me or email me, and I'll make sure they get one.
And we've used the phrase "we" a lot as putting this together, and I think you mentioned the partners there as their website.
Yes.
But who's involved with getting this together?
Rio Nuevo started the process, but we asked the mayor to participate with us, and she happily did. She put together this really beautiful logo to celebrate the 250th so that we could use that in all of the murals, and it's been being used in many other places as well. But the mayor has been very supportive, and we put together a video about the artists and the tour, and the mayor will be in that video as well. So she's been very supportive. And then Visit Tucson has participated. They are helping us by sponsoring the actual event on the 25th, and Rio Nuevo is sponsoring the artists.
Okay.
And then we're partnering with El Presidio Museum and Downtown Tucson Partnership.
Okay, so you've got some of the big names here.
We've got some of the big names, and they're all really excited about it. So we're pretty pleased with the way it's going.
And speaking of big names, then I don't know if we've mentioned who are the 4 muralists.
Thank you for that question. The first muralist we invited was Ignacio Garcia. I was walking by his mural that he's painting on the old storefront at Gibson's, and I thought, he's just got to do one of our murals. And I stopped right there, and I made an appointment to talk to him and invited him to paint one of our murals. Well, I should go back a bit. I first needed to find 4 walls. So Downtown Tucson Partnership was hugely helpful in that regard. And we identified several walls and got permission for 4 of those walls. Actually 5, because one of them didn't work out. We moved around a bit. But then we selected the 4 artists. Ignacio was the first one. I also commissioned Joe Pagic to do the Saguaro mural. So I knew him pretty well, and I knew what a great job he would do on this. So we asked Joe to be the other. Then I wanted 2 female artists, and I thought it would be nice if we could find 2 artists who hadn't made it to the recognition level that Ignacio and Joe have. And I asked around several people, and 2 names kept popping up. And I ran them by Joe and Ignacio, and they said these 2 women would be outstanding. And that is Penn Macias and Camila Ibarra. Camila is painting the west face of Riley's Pizza and Drink, And Penn Macias has finished her mural, which is on the west face of Street Taco.
Mm-hmm. And then Joe's will be
And
on
Joe's is on the south face, the Ochoa face of the La Placita Garage on Church across from the convention center. And Ignacio's, of course, is at Arizona Alley and Congress.
Well, I've seen glimpses of all three, and with Penn's, hers was done first. And
It was. Hers has been finished for a month. She didn't want to paint in the heat.
So Penn is the smart one of the group.
Everybody is painting right now.
But hers, and I know everyone's going to go out and see that, but hers is so fabulous because all of them show some kind of continuum of history, and she has a scene built into hers, which it's like an iconic 1930s scene with a Fox Theater and an old car, maybe reminiscent of when John Dillinger was here. And I'm looking at that, and all of a sudden I realized
that car is driving off into the future right to Joe Padgett's mural.
Exactly, yeah.
Isn't
She
that
put
great?
Joe Padgett's mural in her mural, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so
the
fun.
future. That's the present. So she started way back with a beautiful scene of the desert that could be today, and it could be 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
That's how the mural begins. And then she moves through history with the mural and ending with the Fox Theater and the car driving off past Hotel Congress into the present day to Joe Padgett's mural.
Yeah, it's just, they're all, the ones obviously they're fantastic, but the creativity of how they tell a story and a timeline with, it's a big space, but it's also really kind of a small space if you think about trying to tell 10,000 years worth of history.
And then right in the middle of her mural, just jumping out of the mural, is a rodeo cowgirl.
Yeah, they're wonderfully done, and I love the fact that they are all street level, so you can get up close and personal to all of these. It's great to see them on buildings.
But you also want to step back, don't get run over. But if you can get out in the street a little ways so that you can see the whole thing, they're spectacular.
When we've done some mural tours, as I know you have, and one thing we always like to point out on those is the perspective as you get closer and further, because these aren't flat walls. They have to deal with 3D. No. They have to deal with pipes and protrusions and uneven spaces. So as you get closer, you see a little bit different of how their technique is. And then when you get further away and you see these complete pictures, you're like, how? I don't even know how they translate.
How did they do that on that surface? Ignacio was telling a story yesterday of little tiny bees that live inside the holes in the wall he's painting. And they're not aggressive bees, so they weren't stinging, but he was watching the bees go in and out of the holes that he's painting around.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see how they work those. And I got a photo of Ignacio just looking at his digital rendering and painting. Like he's just translating an 8x10 picture into this massive wall, and he's just looking down, looking up, and like somehow in his brain he can translate that without any equipment.
He can, and I saw that mural after he'd been working on it maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I thought it was finished. And I said, "You're doing great, Ignacio." And he says, "Yeah, I'm almost halfway." And I said, "Halfway? It looks like it's finished already." He said, "Oh, no, it's not even close."
Yeah, I think in talking with a couple of the muralists, it's always been like it could always never be done. At some point, they just have to say, "Okay, we're walking away to the next one." But there's always something like, "What if we just put?"
And then they tell me, "Oh, I wish I had done this at a later time." The other thing that's interesting is that I think this is accurate. Both Joe and Ignacio have hidden some things in their mural.
I am sure they have.
They've hidden things for us to find, and they're the kinds of things that you would expect them to hide in the mural.
Yeah, when you really get up close and had a chance to study these, and of course talk with the artists, because sometimes they will reveal things. I've seen murals for 3 years that I thought I understood, and then I had a conversation with Joe or Ignacio. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see it completely different now because of that one element. So I'm excited, those little Easter eggs that they hide in there. So it's July 25th.
You gave up the secret, Tom.
What's that?
Ignacio's hidden items are Easter eggs.
Well,
There are Easter eggs in
they're-
this mural,
they're
too.
actual Easter eggs, or
They're Easter eggs.
Oh.
Of course they are.
well, I did not know that.
You
I
have to
just meant-
find them.
Yeah, yeah, we could talk about Ignacio's. I hope he's listening. His warped mind and how he likes to play tricks.
Oh,
on
he's
us.
listening.
He plays tricks on us. But July 25th, this is part of a much larger celebration. We're not going to really dive into that today. But Tucson turns 250 on August 20th of,
Yes.
of this year.
The celebration is August 23rd at the Presidio Museum. And the blocks around there, there'll be a big block party that day in August. And even though it's obviously going to be a very warm day, they celebrate Tucson's birthday every year, and they have at least 500 people for any birthday that Tucson celebrates. So we're expecting thousands on the 23rd. So I hope you'll be one of them.
I will definitely be one of them, although I will not be wearing the traditional Spanish
Oh, no.
wool
But
uniforms.
there will be several people wearing them.
Yes, if you haven't visited the Presidio Museum during their Living History Days, that's another thing to put on your bucket list. Well, I feel like you and I could just chat for hours about this, so I'm going to recommend that maybe we have you back and talk a little bit more about some of the murals in Tucson beyond these four, because you and Beyond and Rio Nuevo and the city and some of the private property owners have done a tremendous job of giving us a beautiful canvas. And we're just talking about 4 murals, but there are
Oh, there
hundreds
are hundreds of murals.
that we could talk about, and some of them are small and hidden.
And there are at least 100 of them downtown. Yes.
At least, and
Yeah.
it's hard to keep track because as you're doing these tours on Monday, it's like this is the newest mural in Tucson, and the next week, well,
Yes.
that's old news. Now we have a new mural.
See, I think
over
I
here.
know the murals, and I'm driving down the street and I say, wow, that one popped up and I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the work that many people, yourself, very much involved with bringing this beautiful artwork to Tucson, because it's not just about how beautiful things are. It's also telling stories. It's about our history and culture. It's a form of history that is being displayed on these walls.
It's a canvas with Tucson displayed. It is what defines Tucson is our rich history and the number of talented artists we have who put their art in public places for everyone to enjoy. It makes such an inclusive community.
Perfect. I think that's where we end.
Thank you.